You there?
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
mean, when you were messing about, I was basically telling them that welcome to, our first dev call in a while, and the topic of this dev call is essentially you'll be demoing MiniMask. I also told them to not be scared and that the UI they're going to see is only a beta version.
I actually think it looks
Um,
really rather nice. I know you guys don't like my clean functional interfaces, but function first, form later. This is the mantra. Yeah. Can't do both things. Okay, but before we start that, there's a few topics, as always, that we'd like to talk about. But what I will say is this is quite interesting because you're all in here. If anybody wants to chip in, just unmute your. Like if you're not talking, I can see Hugo. You're not muted. So if you're not going to talk, you can mute yourself. If you mute yourself, it probably uses up less bandwidth. But if you want to talk, please unmute
no,
yourself
no,
and
no, no, no,
just
no, no, no. Don't.
and
We're
just
not
chip in.
having that kind of chaos. No, Paddy. If 10 people unmute and all start talking at the same time, it's going to be
Well, it won't be
impossible to
10
make a
people, it'll be
bunch.
one person. Nobody ever talks anyway. It's fine. It's, if you want to talk, please unmute and you can talk. All right, let's start this. Let's go for it. 11:17. All right, let's start this. Nice to see everybody. I'm sorry we haven't had this dev call. I've been down the rabbit hole doing this mini-mask thing, and I'm going to talk about that. But first, I'm going to talk about just general crypto stuff that's been happening because there's always a lot happening. And let's see what we can talk about. So, the current obsession, quantum computers, that have been all over everything, and everybody's getting all upset about this. And I mean, I'll be honest, it's basically FUD. If you ask me, they're not going to get these. I mean, they're not going to get these quantum computers for 20 years. I'm calling it now. 20 years. You're not getting it by 2030. I saw somebody saying, "Yeah, we'll do it by 2030," because nobody understands. Just so you know, they're saying, "Oh, I can defeat a problem that is 2 to the 50." Yeah, and it's like, oh, 2 to the 50. That's a fifth of the 2 to the 256. Yeah, so 2 to the 50 is pretty close to 2 to the 256, and it's like, no, it's not. The difference between 2 to the 50 and 2 to the 51 is twice as hard. The difference between 2 to the 50 and 2 to the 52 is 4 times as hard. Yeah, this is exponentiality to a degree that nobody can even understand. So to get to 2 to the 256, which is what they need to actually start cracking this stuff, is going to require a paradigm shift. It's going to require some breakthrough that it's not possible to get there in a linear way. It's not like, just going to add some every year. No, just because they can crack some small little 2 to the 50 RSA problem, which I think I saw the Japanese managed to do 2 to the 20 which is, impressive. That's fine. That's cool using a quantum computer, but it's like quadrillion, billion, million, billions and billions of times less powerful than what you need. Yeah, just one number on the exponent makes it twice as hard. 2 to the 200 still to go. 2 to the 200. It's not like 2 to the 50. I only need 200 more. It's like 2 to the 200 more. So when this actually, I do think it'll happen. This is why we added quantum security to minima, because we knew that this was going to happen. But I don't know what the timescale is going to be. So I think there is a lot of, everybody can just breathe. It's not happening tomorrow. Something fundamental needs to change in the way we do this for this to work. Okay. And I wanted to talk about so there's been chat about how Ethereum's going to be better at doing this because they hard fork all the time. So they're going to be able to fix stuff and they're going to be able to get on with it. And I just wanted to say that Ethereum is way more broken than Bitcoin when it comes to quantum security. So for instance, they use proof of stake. Proof of stake is totally broken under a quantum computer because proof of stake requires you to sign the mining that you do. There's no energy involved. You just say, look, this is how much money I've got. So I can prove that I own the money. So I sign that and I found a block, blah, blah, blah. Proof of stake involves signatures. So proof of stake mining totally breaks. You're going to have to come up with a different way of doing the mining. That's fine. You can change they'll have to hard fork this in, but it's going to be totally different from what they've got at the moment. So that already breaks, which doesn't break on proof of work chains, on minima, on Bitcoin. That doesn't break with a quantum computer, but proof of stake does break. Then all the contracts on Ethereum use this thing called EC recover, which is a way that you can get the address of the Ethereum account from the public key. That's totally broken. Yeah, so you can actually get the private key for all the smart contracts that have been deployed, which means that all of those contracts need to be redeployed. And I don't know, but that's a lot of contracts. It's not just your address. It's not just like sending your funds to a new account. All the contracts, and a lot of contracts use that functionality, will need to be redeployed. So they're all broken as well. So I'm not sure if Ethereum should be waving their flag around. Yeah, they got plenty of issues to worry about if they want to do this. You know, they're just going to do a whole new chain, basically. It's as big as ETH2. You know, ETH3, you know, it's going to be a big, big thing. They're going to have to change everything, and everyone's going to have to redeploy their contracts. Then the other hot kid at the moment is Zcash. No offense, none of the Zcash tech is quantum secure. Everything in Zcash totally breaks. The whole thing breaks. And the Zcash thing is sort of interesting because it's like, you know, I sort of gained some strength from the fact that Zcash has, you know, been a nothing chain for 10 years. And now it's had its little moment in the sun and it's pumping and all of this. But I'll be honest, Zcash is like, you know, the mining rewards, part of that in the protocol goes to the VCs who they say they give it to the devs. That's totally wrong. You can't have that. You can't have a specific account in the Zcash protocol that gets paid. You know, and they say, hey, it's because we're going to be, you know, we got developers that are going to be doing it. It's like, why do you get to choose who the developers are? What if we don't like the developers? Yeah, that's totally wrong. Yeah, and in my honest opinion, the privacy should not be on the base layer. If you can't audit your base layer, so no one can audit how much money's on Zcash. It's like, great, how much money's actually in there? There was an infinite bug for 8 months that they didn't tell us about. And then later they said, there was an infinite bug, which meant you could print loads of money, but we fixed it. Yeah, we fixed the bug, and now you can't print loads of money. Can I check that? No. Can anybody check that? No. That's not right. You can put your privacy on a higher layer. Yeah, you can run Starknet, you can run Starkweb, you can do that stuff on a layer 2. That's fine. But you can't do that on your base layer, in my honest opinion. Yeah, you can be clever on the base layer to hide your funds. You can use a new address, and very, very difficult to find what's going on. But you want to be auditable on the base layer. You want to be able to prove the money you have. Blah blah blah. You know, this is like a fundamental thing. I need to know that when the British government says we've got 1 million bitcoins, they've got 1 million bitcoins, and when Russia says this, you can't have a non-auditable base layer. So I think Zcash is like this pump, and you know that's fine, but it's not cool. Also, it's quite old tech. Yeah, no offense. This was done way back when. There's better tech. I think confidential transactions on Liquid, which is the way that UTXO systems do it, where you don't know the amounts that you're sending. Yeah, and then you can send it to a new address. That's the best way. Using a coin-joined confidential transaction, which is really easy, really well understood stuff. You know, you hash the inputs, hash the outputs, and then you can add them up, and you can do some clever stuff like that. That sounds like a much better way of doing it. So Zcash, I'm sorry, totally broken. Quantum, you know, forget about it. And they don't have the tech. We don't have the tech yet to do Zcash quantum secure. In fact, if my understanding of quantum computers is correct, symmetric encryption like AES and that sort of stuff, where like the Enigma machine, where I tell you the password to decrypt it, that is quantum secure. Asymmetric encryption, where you have the public and the private key, yeah, where you know my public key and everybody knows that, and I have a private key. We currently I don't think we have any quantum secure asymmetric techniques, and that's the one you need for blockchains. So this whole encryption stuff, you know, you need a quantum computer basically to do asymmetric encryption that is quantum secure. So I think that stuff is just not going to work. We just don't have that tech. So that's interesting. You know, everyone's got their bit around this and they're all chomping. We don't have to worry about it. Everything that we've got on Minima is quantum secure, and that's great and that's fine. And it's, you know, it's early. It's sooner than I thought this would kick off, but it has kicked off, and everyone won't shut up about it, and that's fine, and that's good. And that is something in our, you know, we can hold your hand up and say, yeah, we're quantum secure. We don't have to worry about it. So quantum. And the other thing, which I think is quite interesting, which happened like 2 weeks ago, last week, whatever, is that both Adam Back, sort of a leader, kind of not the leader, but a big voice in Bitcoin, and Vitalik, yeah, the ETH guy. What do they both say? They both said, we've got to ossify. It's time. We've got to ossify. We can't have a protocol that changes. Ossification is the new idea. And Adam said that he is working towards what do we need to do on Bitcoin to get it so that we never have to touch it again? Yeah, because that's really, really important. We all know that's important. I mean, these things seem obvious. Yeah, I know. Hindsight is 2020, and when they look back, they're like, damn, man, I wish I'd never mucked about with the base protocol. But now both of them are saying we need to ossify. Ethereum needs to ossify. Bitcoin needs to ossify. Changing the protocol, and I'll tell you why that's dangerous, but changing the protocol is it's just fraught with danger. Yeah, this whole knots thing, I'm not going to go into that again, but this is just like changing the protocol is a total nightmare. You never make everybody happy. There's always half the people who don't like it, half the people that do like it. And the taproot stuff that we fought for on Bitcoin, that they put, all of that is, Schnorr signatures, which is what Taproot uses. Yeah, multiple signatures as one signature, isn't quantum secure. So basically, we're going to have to get rid of that. So that whole upgrade is useless now, because 20 years from now, you won't be able to use it anyway. So it's like every time they've tried to fork something into Bitcoin, they've done a bad job. P2SH, pay to script hash, is like a 2 to the 128. It doesn't even use a clever way of doing it, which means they've halved the security because of the birthday attack on hashes. Means it only takes 2 to the 128 to break a 2 to the 256. And it's like everything they add is always bad in retrospect. So it's a good idea at the time, and then later they're like, no, we screwed that up. We should have done it. We should have done it differently. And that applies to Ethereum more than anything, because they've done so many hard forks, and all of them are like, is it so different to the way Ethereum was? Is what you've added actually made the original Ethereum, the one everybody used to love and play with in proof of work, blah, blah, blah? Has it added that much? And it's like, not really. I can't think of a single thing that actually makes it better, that they couldn't have done with what they had if they'd just been a bit cleverer about it. If they'd known that they couldn't affect the protocol, could they have added the things that they now say we can do in the old protocol? And the answer is yes, they could have. So ossification, stability, the stability that comes with knowing that we're not going to screw with the chain. Warts and all, this is what we've got. This is what we've got to play with. This is what you get. Get on with it. Write whatever you're doing. And this is what you're going to use. Like quantum security and ossification. Two things that Minima does. It's sort of weird. I don't understand. In so many ways, Minima is just like, I love Minima. I love it. I love the tech. I love all of it. It's just amazing. And it's just like, I don't know why we haven't, broken through to the other side. But we have. But we do all the right things. We sing all the right songs in the right places. And the funny thing, and the other thing I want to talk about is Cardano. So did anybody see what happened to Cardano this weekend? So this weekend, some guy whose name on Discord is Noob Trader, yeah, I don't know if he's good or not, and he vibe coded, there's a bug in Cardano, which they added, yeah, so it's not in the old client. In the old client, it didn't have it, and then they changed something fundamental in the way, a consensus thing, and something which they changed in the way that they serialized data to use some clever thing, and he wrote a bug, and he made a transaction, and he posted it on mainnet, and mainnet split, and they got two chains, and they got everyone on the old clients didn't accept it, and everyone on the new client did accept it, and you got one guy on multi-billion-dollar chain got his vibe coding LLM bot to write the transaction and posted it. Now that's, I feel for them. That's bad. You want to sort that out. My issue is what they did about it. And what they did is they called the FBI and they called the police and they arrested this bloke, and they are going all out and saying, how dare you do this to our chain? Why didn't you test it on testnet? Mentioning no names about people in the crowd, in our crowd, about when you should have done something. That's not how it works. This is the antithesis of how blockchain works. The whole point about blockchain is that you can all do whatever you want. That's exactly the point. We all run the system, and you can do what you want with it. And the system that you operate on needs to be resilient enough and strong enough that you can't break it. And frankly, they should be patting this bloke on the back and saying, hey, you found a bug. Thanks. I mean, it's messy. You didn't have to do it on mainnet. You could have done it on testnet. You could have told us about it, but I can't stop you from doing it. It's certainly not an issue where I then go to the police and say, he's done something bad. Who went to the police? Who are these people that are in charge? Charles Hoskins, what a dickhead. I'm sorry. I'm just going to have to say that. And he was gloating about it, going, hey, we're going to get this guy. And it's like, what do you mean you're going to get this guy? That's not how this works. This is a blockchain. You all get to do what you want in it, and the blockchain has to survive. Frankly, Cardano is dead now. It's over. It's like anybody who thinks that Cardano is a chain worth anything, I'm sorry, it's not. Especially since they've had all these billions, multiple billions and trillions of money spent on it. They've got 18 billion market cap. Charles Hoskins is a billionaire, and they still got this stuff, and they're still sending people to the FBI. Not cool. Yeah, I feel for the fact that they did that. If something like that happens to a chain, we're all in this together. I feel for them. I'm like, shit, that's really unfortunate. I wish they couldn't do that, but roll back, find it, fix the bug, go on. But the way they behaved is unacceptable. That is not the way to run your blockchain, and they shouldn't have done that. So just so you know, they're very, very bad. Okay. So I would like to show you some mini-mask stuff now. Does anybody want to talk about quantum security, ossification, or the way that you should behave when interacting with your blockchain of choice? I'm going to give you a few seconds, few minutes while I get my... Here we go, right. Share screen, share a window, make selection, share. Woo! Okay, here we go. The stream is still running. All right, so I'm assuming you can all see me. Neo, you can all see my screen, yeah? You can all see my little thing.
That's good. Just keep your video off.
Minimask, minimask.org. So here we are. This is all up and running. This is all working. Let's have a little chat about this. So as I've mentioned many times before, I think one of the great successes of the crypto space has been MetaMask. You know, just a really, really nice way for people to interact with their chain. I don't like the fact that MetaMask is totally centralized. Yeah, I don't like the fact that everybody doesn't bother running a node, but it is undeniable that people use it. And, you know, that is something that you just, you know, you want people to use your chain. You want people to write contracts on your chain. It's like, is that more important than it being decentralized? Well, I guess the truth is it probably is. You know, if no one's using it when in a decentralized session, but you can give them some centralized stuff and so they use it, you know, usage is important. Yeah, it's not nothing. It matters a lot. So Minimask is our attempt at trying to come up with a MetaMask version. So we're on Minimask that. I haven't uploaded it into the Chrome dev store yet. Sorry, it's still in development purposes. Do not use for anything important. Yeah, we're still definitely very much in alpha development, you know, for security reasons, etc., etc. But when you download it, when you go to Chrome extensions, you can just you go into developer mode and then you can load unpacked and you just load it and you get this Minimask thing here. Okay. And then what you do in your extensions is you get this. So can you see my Minimask thing here, Neo, when I do that? Can you see?
Yeah.
I see it.
All right, cool. So here it is, Minimask. Clean, a lovely clean interface. I know people are getting annoyed about the graphics, but frankly, I think it looks rather nice. And so you can do new wallet or a restore wallet. If you go to new wallet, it just picks you a key. Again, interesting that you know, that's meant to be a 24-word seed phrase, but I find the 24-word seed phrase a bit scary. That's actually base 32, and it's equivalent. That is 2 to the 1, so that's equivalent to a 12-word seed phrase, which is still way more than you know. 24 words, fine. That'll be secure till the end of the universe. 24-word seed phrase, that's what that is. This is just 2 to the 128, which I think is absolutely fine. No one is going to hack that. You don't have to worry about it. And it just seems more manageable, yeah? So you get that, and then you can proceed and you can log in. Now, I'm going to restore a wallet that I've got on there. Oh. X, proceed. Oh, wait a second. Oh, random. Here we go, wait. Settings, yeah, I'm using that. Store. Ooh, right, and there you go, nice and simple. So basically, it's like a web wallet. And just to say that I'm actually currently running on my own little Meg server, which is basically 2 Java files. Yeah, one I run minima.jar with dash mega mmr, and then I run a the minima meg server. And I just run that, and then I just use my API caller here, and then I don't have to worry about wasting all my money as I'm testing it and debugging it. But all you get is you get balance, you get send, and you get receive. Okay, very nice and simple. You get your settings here, you get your pending transactions, and you get log out. Now, what I've also got is I've written a few examples that show you how to use this stuff. So let's check this out. Block. Woohoo! So the first thing to notice is that anybody can now write an application that uses, in fact, I think the first thing I'll do, is I'll show you the interface that you get. So it's very similar to the Minidapp system. Yeah. So instead of getting MDS dot, you get Minimask dot. And basically the way that an extension works is that I embed some JavaScript on your web page. And the functions that you get are minimask.account, and that gives you access to these bits, balance, send, and receive. So you get balance, what are my coins, what's my address, what's my public key. I can send stuff and I can sign stuff. And interestingly, the send and the sign aren't write mode, they're read mode. So they will create a pending transaction. So these ones actually do something with your wallet in MiniMask, and you have to authorize them. And then you get Meg functionality. And Meg functionality is more low level, yeah, but you actually create your own account. Yeah, you create an account with a private key. You can get the balance for that address. And this stuff doesn't use the MiniMask account. And this means that you can send and receive without asking for permission. I have to send funds to this address. Raw transactions are rather nice. I've got a demo that uses that, which means you can create whatever transactions you want. You can sign transactions, you can post transactions, you can get the blocks, scan chain, get TXPal. Just you're basically a very simple subset of functions which effectively lets you do anything you want. Sorry, so this is running on my private testnet at the moment. Yeah, I'm only on block 23,000. So I click on that. Ooh, there it is, you see. And so what's nice about this is that any developer can now write stuff that uses Minima, and any user can now access these web pages, yeah, by using the MiniMask wallet. So simple block explorer. In fact, if I'm gonna, let's just see what happens if I say view page source. Right, that's it. That's the page. That is a block explorer. Frankly, I use this block explorer more than I use the other one on mainnet, just because it's cleaner. Because I like clean, nice. I don't want any graphics or anything. I just want to be able to click on transactions and see them. So that is the code. Yeah, when this is the bit where you initialize for you devs. You just check that the MiniMask extension has been loaded. Yeah, and then it goes, all right, init. I've initted, and then this is very similar to the MDS system. And I post pending transactions in here that I will show you. And then this is how I init the block. I say scan the chain off this offset, show this many blocks, and then I just show them to you. Very simple, very, very simple little block explorer. Now let's go a little bit more complicated. Examples, what have I got? The wall. Yeah, so I'm going to write Twitter, and then I thought, stay calm, Pat. Don't go crazy. Just show them something. Woohoo! All right, so here we've got a function. Oh, what's happening? I can't see those. Doesn't matter. Right, so the wall. So here I can do hello, you. Yeah, and I can do send message, pending transaction created. So now what I've tried to do is I've tried to send a transaction from your account with some state variables. When I look in my MiniMask, I go to pending. I get a pending transaction. So send coins from your account. It was from this page. It's for this token, this amount. These are the state variables. I'm sending it to that address. Accept. Okay, funds sent. Okay, now we're pending transactions. The balance that I've had to do some quite nice caching, in my opinion, and so this doesn't update. Like this updates every minute, so you're just gonna have to wait. I mean, it won't change every minute, but in fact, let's see if we can see it in the block explorer. Yes, there it is. If I go here, there it is. So the transaction is actually on chain at the moment, and I can tell from my block explorer that it's there. But will it appear? Hello, you. Hello. There you go. So this is just a very simple system where you can just post messages to an address with some state variables. I scan the chain. All right, let's do it again. This is a dev call after all. Let's have a look at how we do this. Same init functionality. I mean, that's basically your default. This is how I start up a MiniMask system. Then I want to send a message, all right? And so I get the data that I want to send. I put it as a state variable. And then I go MiniMask account send, blah, 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 state, da-da-da. And then it's a pending transaction. And then I load all the messages. Loading the messages is quite nice. I use MiniMask Meg list coins. So I say, look, give me all the coins on the address. And then I print them. The address that I send to, some of you will notice, is a prunable address, which means that once this doesn't get into the mega MMR, because it's not 32 bytes long, I do that on purpose so that messages will only remain for 24 hours. And then they will disappear, even on mainnet, and they don't clog up the mega MMR. I mean, what you could do is you could scan these messages, put them in your own database. Yeah, you could. Lots of stuff can be done off chain. Yeah, lots of stuff. You don't want to do it on. You don't want the chain to be your database because it's just not an efficient way of doing this. Yeah, there are much more efficient ways of storing data than putting it on there. So that's the wall. So we've got Block Explorer. We've got the wall. That's it. Let's copy it down. And then the third one, which is kind of like a full dem, is Future Cache. Yeah. So if I open up Future Cache now, all right, and this application actually does something quite cool. I send funds to this address. And this address is this script. So let's look at this script. So first I just put some text up here because the address is the hash of the script. So this gives it a sort of unique address because we know we've got the future cache mini dApp. This doesn't use the same address as that, just so that I don't make the two the same. So that's just there to give me a random address. Then I say, right, the coin must be older than the time lock. And I store the time lock in state variable 0, and I store the guy who can collect it in state variable 1. So I say assert coin age greater than priv state 0. I wish priv state was called coin state. I wish priv state. Hello? Yep, that's good. I can hear some stuff. I can hear some talking. All right. So I wish priv state was called coin state, but priv state is basically the state of the previous transaction and is now the coin state. You could probably just convert that, if you're doing an IDE, but priv state is basically the coin state. So whatever coin state 0 is the time lock. So this says make sure the coin is at least this old, and then return signed by priv state 1, and then make sure that the public key owner is the guy who's signing this transaction. You will note that I don't say you have to send it to this address. It just says, look, you can spend this coin if you're the owner and it's over a certain amount of time. All right. So if we go to home, amount 0.1, time lock blocks 20. All right, let's try something. Send. Oh, no, user logged in. Woohoo! So why was I logged out? I'll tell you why I was logged out. Because the private key is only ever stored in RAM. I don't ever store it. I just logged in as I've got multiple user accounts. Okay, send, receive. Right, so just to show you that you can use tokens, obviously. No, I haven't done the little image icon, but that would be very easy to do. So let's see, send that. Ding. Wait a second, refresh you. Now we've done it. That was one I did this morning. Ooh, there it is. Okay, so I can collect that. I'll do that in a second. I'm going to send a new one, right? Send 0.1, pending transaction created. All right, go here, pending transaction. So send coins from an account. This is from my future cache. I should probably use the bottom part of I'll use, anyway, token 0, 0, amount 0, 1. These are the state variables. That's the address I'm sending it to. Accept, funds sent. All right, now if I look at balance, it hasn't updated yet. Oh, actually, let's have a look at the block explorer. No, it's not in the block yet. Okay, so now we're just waiting for those future cache funds to appear. But here we have one that I did earlier, and it's already 463 blocks old. No probs. So what happens if I press collect? Collection transaction added to pending, because whenever you access the account, everything goes into pending. I haven't done a write mode. And so what this does, which is quite interesting, is it actually constructs a complete transaction. I put that in as an input, I create an output, and now I'm like, okay, I've done all this stuff. Now you need to, look, let's have a view of the transaction. There we go. So here are the inputs. That was the coin I made. It was worth 0.1, the time lock contract. And then I basically send it to myself. And then I say, okay, right, let's have a look. So back to pending, accept, you're going to work for me. Transaction signed and posted. Woo! So now, if we come back here and we refresh, will it work? Okay, no coins found because let's have a look. So it hasn't received yet. We haven't got it yet. I've basically got a 1 minute cache in the I've got a 1 minute cache in here, and I've got a 1 minute cache now running. There's a flag that you can add to Meg, which does a 1 minute cache on calls to the Meg server, which is quite interesting because that means that if 1,000 people are using simple block explorer, when they do the call to Meg, and then the Meg only does one call to minima every minute, which kind of scales quite nicely. So, all right, not that, 22383. No, let's have a look here. Yeah, there it is, scan chain. I can see it all on the minima side of things. So let's have a look at this functionality. Let's have a look at this code. All right, here we go. So again, we've got our init function. So when you initialize, I send you your public key and your address, which I store. And then I said, right, load any future funds. So what does load future do? Here's the load future function. Very simple. I list the coins from the future cache address. I log it, and I say, look, is the coin amount, is the coin age if I can collect, if the time lock is, if the coinage is greater than the time lock, then I can collect. So I put a button that says collect, and if it isn't, then I say, oh, you got to wait. Yeah, you can't do it yet. And then when you want to send funds, all I do is I just do another send with some state variables. And the state variables are here, the number of blocks that I want to wait, and the user public key. So nice and simple. I just send some money to an address and I say, I'm allowed to collect in this amount of time. No problem. And then when I want to collect, I have to do this. And this is a little bit more complicated. This is probably the most complicated thing, but it shows you a full raw transaction. So what do? I give it the coin ID of the coin. Yeah, when you click the coin thing, I say, hey, here's the coin ID. And I construct a raw transaction, which means here are my input coins, here are my output coins, here are, I don't specify any state variables. I tell it the script of the future cache address, and then I say, right, minimask meg raw transaction, input coins, output coins, the scripts of all the input coins, no state, off you go. And it goes, all right, I've created a raw transaction. That doesn't require me to sign anything or do anything. So that doesn't do a pending. It just creates a transaction, doesn't sign it. It doesn't do the MMR or anything. It's just like, here's a transaction using that coin ID. And then I go, right, now I'm going to post it and sign it. And so I say, right, now I need your account to sign this transaction. There's the transaction data that is returned from raw transaction. I say I want post is the second variable. In fact, if I go minimask help, it tells you here, it tells you here, sign function post. Yeah, do you sign a transaction created with minimask, and do you want to sign it as well? And you say, so do you want to post it as well? So that's a Boolean, true or false. And so then I do. I say, right, sign the transaction. It sends it to minimask. No, what are you? Simple block explorer. Why aren't you working? So let me just see something. Send. Oh no, user logged in again. That's why. So it's the goddamn the RAM thing. So I used to put it in the user session variables, but now it keeps logging me out after about. So if you've got a page open and you're on the page, it doesn't log you out. But if you leave that page, it does log you out. Okay, that doesn't seem to have done that. Extensions here, future cache, minimask. Anyway. All right, check DX pal. Let's just get back to here now, and then we can have a little chat about it. Stop streaming. Don't show this again. I don't want to know that. There. All right. So, minimask account, which is a web wallet, and then Meg functionality. I'll be honest. I've had to add this is something else that nobody else seems to do. When I needed stuff, I just sort of add it to the Java to the client. So I needed a way of posting and signing a transaction, or I need, I know you don't ask that, but if you need stuff and you need Minima to do it, then it is possible just to do a pull request on the GitHub and say, hey, I would like it to do this function, or like raw transaction. I don't think exists in 1.046. I now work on 1.047. And in 1.047, I have this raw transaction function, which doesn't change. It's not a consensus thing. It's just like more client functionality to do that. But I really think that this minimask thing, well, you can use it now, so please help yourself. You can now write applications. So what am I using it for? So I've written this minimask thing. And what am I now working on? So I've got minimask working, cool. And I'm sort of like mucking about with it as I'm writing this. So that's why it's still in dev mode. There might be some changes. There's this thing about the RAM and you being logged out after, if you leave the page that you're on, you get logged out, which is quite annoying. And things like that. I mean, I'm trying to copy the way that MetaMask does it, but frankly, there seems to be some server interaction there. An encrypted, you can do it easily if you store an encrypted version on a server and then you download it, but I don't want any server access or any of that. So what am I writing now? I'm writing a DEX. Yeah. So I want to write a nice DEX that uses minimask, which means people will be able to buy and sell Minima without having to actually run a Minima node. Again, I'm in two minds about this, about the decentralization aspects of this, but I can't be a dickhead about this. I can't just be like, no, if they're not going to run Minima, then they're not allowed to use it, because that's I can't tell you how to use this tech. If that's not how they use it, then I'm going to have to write something else and see if I can get them to use it that way. There's no point just being obstinate and stubborn and saying, no, if they're not going to use it the way I expect them to use it, they're not allowed to use it. Yeah. I mean, anybody could have written Minimask. I mean, I know I've written it, but anybody could have written this. And so it's like, well, if it's possible to write, you may as well write it. And if they decide to use it, then I guess that's how they decide to use it. But what I think is interesting is, given you now have Minimask, how would you go about writing a DEX? How could you write a DEX using Minimask? And so what I did was I said, well, look, here are my must-haves. We've talked about this before, must-haves, nice-to-haves. Okay, so what are my must-haves for a DEX? If I'm going to write you a DEX where you can sell tokens for minima, and when we get a stable coin, which is looking like we might be getting one pretty soon, you'll be able to actually buy and sell minima for US dollar on minima. So this is not the same as Miniswap. Miniswap was a cross-chain DEX where you were doing minima to Ethereum. That's a more complicated thing, if you ask me. Yeah, because you have to use Ethereum code and you have to use hash time lock contracts to make sure that you collect and they collect, and it's an atomic swap and blah, blah, blah. This is just on-chain minima stuff. So I've got a token or an NFT and I want to sell it for some minima or something, SOCO, but I want it to look like Binance. So it's not really about NFTs, it's more about tokens. And so the must-haves that I gave myself for this DEX was that number one, and probably the most important thing, is it must be non-custodial. Yeah. The only reason I use a DEX is because I know that they can't run off with my money. So it must be non-custodial. Yeah. I can't be giving the private keys to the account to anyone else. I'm the only one that has the private keys to the coins, etc., non-custodial. The second thing, probably a little bit controversial this, but no KYC. I can't be giving people, KYC is a scam. KYC is a honeypot, and you're just basically saying, I'm going to give you my passport and my address and my phone number so that eventually when you do get hacked, as everybody does, they're going to have a copy of it. Yeah, that's all it does. It doesn't help anybody, because the criminals who they're trying to stop use it because they download a million different versions of KYC off the dark web. Yeah, it's completely pointless and useless. So non-custodial, no KYC. It should work with any token pair. Yeah, I don't want to decide, what the token pair is. Anybody who wants to sell whatever they want for whatever they want, they should be allowed to do it. And it should be censorship resistant. It should be in such a way that you can't stop people using it to sell their tokens for whatever they want. Those are the must-haves. Yeah. And it's interesting because when I tell you the nice-to-haves, you'll be like, oh, is that, so the must-haves are that, non-custodial, no KYC, you can use any token, and it must be censorship resistant. And the nice to haves, so it's like, all right, let's see if we can also add these things, but it doesn't matter if you can't, but try really hard to do this, is it must be fast. It can't, Miniswap was slow. I want it to be as fast as possible. How fast can I make it in a decentralized, non-custodial way? And it must look nice. Yeah. So if possible, it should look quite nice. I guess, it's a nice to have. I'm just saying it's nice if it looked nice. If it didn't look disgusting and awful. And so given those requirements, given those must-haves and those nice-to-haves, what is the solution that I am now writing? And so what I'm basically writing is, it's a chat server. That's it. It's a chat server. So I've already written it, actually. I've already written the backend. And the backend is a Node.js WebSocket clustered. Honestly, I'm not a Node.js expert. I don't even do TypeScript, but I've got into it now. And so I've got a clustered WebSocket chat server, and that's it. That's all you get on the server. And so what the server does is it allows you to talk to people. That's it. It doesn't do any sequencing. It doesn't know anything about tokens. It doesn't do any of the minimum stuff. It doesn't do any of that at all. And what that means is it's like the Pit. I think of it more as a sort of Pit server. So imagine you enter a room, yeah, and everybody's in that room. And because the difficult thing about these exchanging stuff is you need to talk to people, yeah. And I mean talk to a lot of people. I want to talk to 100 people, 1,000 people. It's not just a Maxima connection. I want to have access to 1,000 people, and their order books. And so what happens is you go into this room and there's 100 people there. I say there's 100 people there, and all 100 of them have an order book, and they say, look, I'm prepared to sell 27 minima for 300 of this token, and I'm also prepared to buy some of those tokens for this much minimum. And then somebody else is like, well, actually, I'm selling this token for this token, and I'm buying this one for this one. And you could have your order book, all the different things you're prepared to do. And when I go into the room, everybody sends you their order book. And whenever anybody updates their order book, everybody gets a copy. So in fact, so what you get is a chat room where the messages are specific. So it's not chatting. What we're sharing with each other is our order books. And then what happens is that I can say, so he wants to sell Minima for this many tokens. I'm up for that. So I use Minimask, and I'm the one that constructs a transaction that says, right, you're putting in these coins, because I can use list coins to get your coins. I'm putting in these coins, and the output is that you're going to get this much Minima, and I'm going to get that token that I really want. Yeah. I create the transaction, I sign the transaction, and then I send you the transaction in the room. And I say, hey, man, you said you wanted to trade. Here's my signed transaction that does the trade that you said you're up for. He looks at the transaction, all client side. Yeah, none of this is done on the server, all client side. He looks at the transaction and he goes, okay, so what you're basically, you can tell from the inputs and the outputs what the trade is, obviously. It's perfectly defined. There's no ambiguity. And you're like, yeah, that's something I want. Even if you're not sitting at the computer, yeah, so you can get up and it just does it. It's like, yeah, that fits in with my order book. I'll sign it and post it. And so what does this mean? What this means is that you have a system which has really fast order book. So changing orders in the order book could be like, when you're on Binance and you see it and it's like, it lights up as people put things in. Yeah. So a really, really fast order book. Yeah. As fast as a WebSocket. Yeah, there's no delay on that. That's nice. And then fast-ish execution. What it means is I have to construct a transaction and sign it. And then I give it to you. And if it fits in with your order book, this is done in the background. Yeah, you don't actually have, this is all done mathematically. And it's like, yeah, this fits in with your orders. You sign it and you post it. So actually the execution of the trade is fast. It's not like 1 millisecond fast, because you have to construct a transaction, sign it, send it to him in the WebSocket, he signs it and he posts it. So maybe 1-2 seconds, 1 second, for the execution, slow settlement. So every trade is one transaction with the inputs and the outputs and da-da-da-da. So fast order book, fast execution, slow settlement, like 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes for the funds to appear in your account. But that's not bad. That's 2 out of 3. Yeah, if you could get fast, you'd need a centralized exchange to do fast settlement, because I need to be able to switch your accounts in a database. I say this, if somebody can think of a way of doing a fast settlement layer in a non-custodial, decentralized way, I'm all ears. But all I can think of doing is fast order book, fast execution, and slow settlement. And what's some nice features that pop out of this are there's no centralized sequencer. So when I'm running a centralized exchange, if you send me a trade and you say, look, I want to buy this, and somebody else sends me a trade and they say, look, I want to sell this. If I see those two transactions, what can I do? I can front run you. I can look at all the hundreds of trades that I've got going. Binance can look at all the trades and go, MEV. Yeah, what's it called? EEV, exchange extracted value. How much value can I extract out of this set of transaction trades that people want to do? On the market buy and sell, it's easy. On the limit orders, it's slightly more complicated, but there's always money to be extracted. And so when you have a centralized sequencer, this is the problem. I can choose. I can stop some trades and go, look, actually, I'm going to put in an order before that order, so that when you're actually doing the buy, you're going to buy it off me and then I'm going to sell it to him and I can guarantee myself money. So there's no centralized sequencer. You are the sequencer. Everybody is sequence. Everybody's looking at the trades and everybody's deciding for themselves, I can make this transaction or I can do this. And so there's some quite interesting logic that goes on the client, but there's no interesting logic going on the server at all. Custom transaction management. So is it going to be one? So currently, and this is not great. You have to trade with one person at a time, but you don't have to. So the way my first client will be, you're trading with one person. So I'll put in some coins, you put in some coins, I send you some and you send me some. Yeah, just 2 people can be involved in that transaction. What if I want 3 people? What if I want to sweep? What if I want to have all the coins at that price? I'm going to trade with him, with him, with him, and with him. I'm going to put all of them in. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to put in this much minimum and I'm going to pay him. There's nothing to stop you doing that. It's like a custom transaction management. So if you actually do want to trade with 5 people, it's a little bit longer to create the transaction because I'd have to send it to each of you, get you to sign it. And what I was thinking is you could be clever about that, because I could actually get you to sign them simultaneously and send me the signatures, then I can add the signatures manually, and then all done in the background. But instead of only trading with one person, you could make it that you could trade with 5 people at the same time. Yeah. And that isn't done by the server. The server is just the chat server. It's just saying, look, I'm a Pit. You can come in here and talk to anybody you want about order books. And then I can broadcast messages, or I can send messages to an individual. That's all the chat server does. Yeah, which means you can build on top of that with whatever you want. In fact, I'm thinking maybe I'll just call it the Pit. I think the name of this DEX is going to be called the Pit.
That's it.
Ooh, but I like it. It's nice. It also means that I can't censor you, because I don't know what trades you're doing. Because actually, what I could do is I could encrypt. You could encrypt the messages you send to the other people, so I don't even know what trades you're doing, which means I definitely can't get involved. And let's say, because I don't think the server itself will be the one that's trying to censor you, but what if they shut it down? What if they say, oh, we don't like it, we're turning you off? Somebody else can run it. It's just a piece of Node.js script this big, and you just run a Node.js server. Yes, and some people may not like this, but you can't extract value from this. I can't charge you a fee for using this, because I'm not involved in the construction of the trade. I'm not involved in the construction of the transaction. But what I was thinking is that the bigger the Pit, the more people are there, the higher the liquidity of users. You could charge for that. You could say, look, you have to be a member. You have to be a member of my organization. You have to sign in and pay me 10 minima, and I allow you access to my Pit. And in the Pit, there's 10,000 people, which you could probably do. This is Node.js stuff. It's pretty fast now. Clustered, it's fine. So you could say you have to pay me to have access to that many users. But then imagine I then run it on my server for free. See, so it's interesting, because I don't know whether people would pay the 10 minima to access the server with 10,000 users. Like, I'm not paying that. I'm going to go to this smaller server where there's not so many people. I don't have to pay. Yeah, I'm not sure which one's probably better. But anybody, the point about this is that it's totally open source. And the point about this is that anybody can run a Pit server. And you just connect to the Pit server, and all it does is it means I can talk to you in this format, in this way of talking about order books. I don't know any other DEXs that operate this way, but I think it's a nice way of doing it. I think it's a cool way of doing it. So it's censorship resistant, in the sense that if one goes down, another can pop up. You could run it on a Tor. You could run it, and there's different ways that you could run it to make sure that it doesn't get taken down. But even if it does get taken down, anybody can run the Binance backend. And it's really just a question of chatting. I mean, could you make it run over WhatsApp? Probably. If you had a room on WhatsApp and you join the room, is there I noticed that there's some sort of API that WhatsApp gives you. I noticed that, I don't know if anybody saw that in the news last week, and they used it to scrape 3.5 billion phone numbers, and WhatsApp didn't even just said, oh, we forgot to rate limit. And I'm like, what? Is that a joke? Are you joking? So so there is an API that allows you to send and receive messages. Obviously, businesses use it. So there is an API that allows you to send and receive messages in a WhatsApp group. You could use that. Yeah. What's important is the format of the messages that you send to each other. The way the chat message is a specific format. It's a specific message. I could probably add checking to that bit on the server. So it's like, it's not it's got to be in this format. It's a JSON, and then there's 2 tokens, and there's some number or something. And as long as it's that, then it's fine. You could probably add that. That would help. But yeah, that's how we're doing it. So that's what I'm working on with my mini mask. But you could write anything. You could write you could write Twitter. You could write a proper nice little version of Twitter that which doesn't require you to be running minima, which is at least it would work, and it's censorship resistant. And what I am going to say is that what we haven't talked about is I've got those mini DApp, those, as I call them, mega DApps, these mega DApps that use mini mask. Get confusing that. So I've got these mega DApps that use mini mask, and they're running on a website, but they don't have to. You could zip those up. Yeah. So the wall, that application I showed you, I could zip that website up. It's just static pages, and I could send you the mega DApp, as I call it, and then it's like a mini DApp, but it uses mini mask, and it's a mega DApp, which means it actually just uses a web page. Because you've got databases and stuff in web. You can do all the stuff, most of the stuff that you can do in the mini DApp system just by using JavaScript libraries and whatnot in your mega DApp. So this is like a new system. I'm going to call it the mega DApp system, where you need MiniMask and some website. And obviously you can sprinkle some of this code into your website so that you can stop people, from paywalls to access certain sections now. That's very easy, all that sort of stuff. You could write a cool wallet. Yeah, much cooler. You could write a really nice looking wallet with a really nice contact list that may be connected to your different accounts in your Facebook or whatever. You could do that very simply. You can write this DEX. Like this DEX is going to be a mega dApp, hopefully. Which what I mean by that is that I don't, will you be able to access it from a website, or will I say download this zip file and run it on your homepage? Run it on your desktop. Just open it up and open index.html and off you go. Opens up quite a lot of different avenues for how this might work. And sorry, the last thing that I didn't mention was choosing your own Meg server. So obviously currently I run a Meg server and MiniMask connects to that, and it's quite scalable, because of all the caching that I've added. It can actually handle quite a lot of traffic because I cache all the requests and everything. But you should really be running your own Meg server. And so there is the Mega node, which I don't know if anybody knows, but there is one line which if you have Docker, you can do Docker compose up with this YAML file and it starts a Mega node. Mega MMR with Minima, functionality, it all works off the. And that's what you really want. Yeah, what you really want is for people to, what I was thinking is that you don't have to, because we're trying to make this as easy as possible for everybody. But if a website could say, look, I run a Mega node, and there'll be a function that I'll say, set up using my Mega node, or set up using this Mega node, or the best is use your own Mega node. Yeah, if it was, which is easy to do, but I know that's asking a lot. And so let's be realistic about this, Pat. I'm not sure how many people are going to run these things. But it doesn't take a lot of power. It doesn't take a lot of processing if you could just set it up. But it'd be nice if there were more Meg nodes, more Mega MMR nodes. I don't know if that's something that can happen, but it's possible. You can just switch it, which means that if I get taken down, if my server blows up or something, it's not like all the apps won't work. No, just point it to a new Mega node. Yeah, just point it to some Mega MMR node and it works. There is work to be done there, yeah, in the simplicity. I'll do a little tutorial on the MiniMask page about how to set up your own Mega node, how to set up a test node, how to set up a proper Mega MMR node that operates on mainnet. These things are really very simple for me, but I know that they're very hard for the general public, so we just need to make those things easier. Ooh, all right. So MiniMask, after that, would anybody like to ask me a question about MiniMask or the apps that you can write with MiniMask or my DEX? Or does anybody have ideas about how the DEX should run?
I have a question about the DEX, Patrick.
Go for it. Yeah.
So you're saying the DEX is, there's two sorts of users. There's market makers who publish a book, and there's market takers who trade on those books.
Yeah.
The books themselves won't cross match. So if I'm bidding 5 and you're offering 5, our books won't cross. That's it.
Well, are you saying is it fill or kill?
That's it. No, so I'm saying would it auto match those trades or?
I mean, just imagine you are a trader. So interestingly, it has nothing to do with the server. It is in the client. And what's interesting is that I don't know if any of you will be able to do this, but you can add this code. Do you want it or you don't want it? You want them to auto match, don't you? Yeah, obviously. So I will try and auto match. Obviously, I will try and say, oh, look, you're selling and he's buying. There's a trade there. So I was thinking about doing it as fill or kill. So when you do a trade, when you say, look, I want to buy this for this, go. It's either fill or kill, which means either you do it right now or put it in the order book. Is that what you're saying? I think that's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that if you're running an order book and I'm running an order book, and we could match, will they cross?
You notice that. You would know. Why wouldn't you notice that? Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'm asking if it's automatic or if it's or if it's users having to say, I like that offer, I like that bid.
That's totally fine. It can be. Another that yes is the answer to that. Whether it happens in V1 or V2, but it's the information is there to be extracted. And so if I'm like, look, I've got an order book here, and he's got one that overlaps mine, so I can actually do a trade here that automatically works. It'll do it. That's fine. Another thing that I'd like is customizability on the UI. So hopefully what I'm going to do is I'm going to write some components that look like the ones that I normally do, which are very simple. And so you'll have the order book and you'll have so obviously all the trades as well. I can see those. I can scan the chain and say, look, this is the price movement, and do a nice little chart.js graph of the prices. But if I can come up with some nice components, And I'm going to have the pit, the chat. You can actually just send a chat message because I love that. I love all the chatting that happens on exchanges. And then hopefully you'll be able to construct your own front end and say, look, I like it having that there, and I want this there, and I want the pit here, and I want to have these windows open to these trade things. So I'd like it to be customizable. I'd like you to be able to actually come up with your own interface. Because like I said, it's not the server that is giving you anything other than the ability to communicate. That's all the server does. It's just like you can chat to people and broadcast messages. It's up to you what you chat about and what the messages you broadcast are. So, there's a lot of customizability that could go on here. You just got to come up with some nice basic functions, some nice low-level functions. So when you give me a transaction, there might be 20, 30 inputs. And there might be 5 different people. I don't care about that. All I do is I say, which of the inputs are mine? Which of the outputs are mine? Is that a trade that I'm interested in doing? So I put in this much and I get this much out. Yeah, this is the change I get. This is the thing. If that works, given my order book, it's a go from me. So nothing needs to change. You could be running a client that does multiple users, and I could be using a client that only does single users, and we could be using the same logic for checking whether the transaction is valid, which is cool. Yeah, which means that people might, hopefully, I don't know if you will, but people could write, there's quite a lot of different ways that you can run these trading engines. There's quite if you look at the whole book, he's prepared to sell this token for this, and he wants to buy this token for this, and guess what? He wants to buy that one for that. That search space is large, maybe too large. There's a lot of different, trade, especially if you do a 3-hop. Yeah, if I trade to him and he trades to him and he does to this, that 3-hop trade means that I make money. That's what you're trying to do. Yeah, you're trying to say, look, there's an overlap here where he's selling something for more than he wants to buy it for less, and then he'll sell that for that, and I can do a little triangle, and at the end of it, everybody gets what they want, and I end up with something.
Arbitrage,
all of that, and there's billions of different ways that you can do all the arbitrage stuff. So hopefully, all of that will be possible as well. So I really want to write this as, little teeny components that people can then integrate into their systems. And hopefully people will be able to sprinkle some of their own wonderful code into it, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, don't ask me for a timescale. I mean, I say, a couple of months. I always say a couple of months, but yeah, I actually took a weekend to get there. You gotta think about it. I've been thinking hard about this, and I'm like, how am I going to do this? And I think this is the way to go for it, and then we'll see. Especially if we get this stable coin. If we can get this stable coin in, then everything's sort of, I think that's a leap. That's a leap in power. Okay. Anybody else? Was that anybody else got any questions about MiniMask, DEXs, applications that they're writing, or applications that they think they would like to write? So now you can, go for it. Start writing some MiniMask applications, whack them up on your website. Anybody? No.
That's it.
Okay.
I think so. We've been around for a little over an hour now.
Okay.
Thank you, Patty. I'm pleasantly surprised to see that you are still as entertaining as usual, even when your camera is on 5 frames per second. That is shocking.
Fuck, man. I'm sorry. I don't know why. Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. It's been a great call.
All right.
So thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining. If you have any additional questions, as usual, just ask them in the chat. And this will be available as a recording later for those of you who want to study what Patty explained and showed on video today. But yeah.
Okay.
I think let's wrap it up.
At the beginning, it's always so wonderful to speak to you all, and yeah, I just love it. So good to see everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Have a nice rest of your day.
I wonder if more people leave.